Truth Frequency Radio Network. KTFRN. Worldwide.
Welcome, Shadowland Voyagers. In the spirit of sovereignty and self-empowerment, we invite you to journey with us into the Shadowland. Let's rediscover, reclaim, and integrate the fragmented aspects of our individual and collectively held consciousness, realize true freedom, and restore authentic expression. Could it be the only way out is through the Shadowland?
Good evening, everyone. This is Sienna Lee, and you are here with Shadowland Voyagers. And Christina is here, and beautiful Elizabeth is here. Tonight's special guest is Kelly La Sha, and we are so jazzed and excited and inspired to have the sister with us. She is an extraordinary woman whose voice is currently lighting up the alternative radio waves with a sweet and penetrating divine feminine wisdom. She is a woman who has gone through her own Shadowland and tonight offers us clear practical tools and practices to assist in surfing the transformational waves of the shift that we are within. I'm going to read you a little bit more about Kelly, and then we'll come back and we'll all dive into it together. Kelly La Sha has a Bachelor of Arts degree in International Marketing and Cross-Cultural Training. With over 30 years of experience in reading energy and shamanic healing, her expertise is in midwifing souls through their journeys to the fifth dimension. She is the author of Liquid Mirror and co-author of Surfing the Transformational Waves of 2012. Kelly writes, "My training began at the age of 4 when my stepfather came into my life. My single mother and I had been absconded by a satanic group that had intended to entrap our souls into the practices of the dark arts. My stepfather, whose story is far more profound than mine, was a medium for an interdimensional being called Mota. Mota notified him that my mother and I were being held captive and gave him a remote viewing of where we were. He found us, broke into the encampment, and rescued not only mother and daughter, but also our eternal souls that would have been severely damaged by the hardcore practices of what I have learned to be called the Illuminati." Okay, now I'm jumping way ahead in your story, Kelly. I hope this is copacetic with you.
Yes,
My journey
yes.
Okay. Just wanted to give them an overview of how this is just so real, what you've come through, that you've lived every month, and how you've gotten to the place that you've been is just so miraculous. My journey continues as I broaden my self-identity to include my fifth dimensional self and recall my soul's intention for this incarnation. I've had numerous spontaneous visits home, including journeys to the Pleiades. On those journeys, I received very intense experiences of unconditional love and support. Come back with us, and we will have the real woman live here to talk with us tonight. Okay, hello everyone. We're so glad to have you all here as we surf the great river of change. I'm quoting from your book, Kelly, Surfing the Great Rivers of Change. Wow, here we are, January 6th, 2013. There's so much to discuss with you. I'm almost speechless, but we have gotten some requests from our listeners to discuss the ascension process in this first part of the show. And to find out now from you what your feelings are as we have transited through December 21st and we're marching towards the March equinox. What level of shift do you sense is happening? And I just want to open the question to you of any kind of thing that you want to say around here we are.
Yes, well, we have arrived. There's a few things I could say about this. The date of the December 21st was when compression ended and expansion began. So with the Baktun cycles, they were accelerating and compressing up to the 21st, and now they're expanding and yet still at an accelerated rate. So now we're in the process of accelerated expansion, which is a huge gift. It's a huge opportunity to souls that are incarnate right now to pop out into another level of growth that we've never had access to before. And yes, our issues are still going to be pulled forward, but it's lighter. Have you noticed that it's just lighter?
Oh, heavens, yes.
Yeah, as our issues are coming up, they seem smaller, and so we just release them, and it's easier to release. Mm-hmm. So that's the gift of the expansion that we're in right now. And the other, my favorite piece of it is she's officially in charge now. The matriarchy is officially in charge now. So we're going to start seeing the shifts individually by feeling, allowing the divine feminine to come through within the men that are here incarnate, within the women that are here incarnate. And the harmony has just yet begun.
Wow. That's awesome, because I've felt since that date this deep empowerment that I hadn't felt before, and I also feel that with Mother Earth as well. So to hear you confirm that just makes my heart sing. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you to perhaps expound a bit on your understanding of the nature of what is now being emitted from the Galactic Center and how this is impacting our world. I mean, some people may not really understand the huge opportunity that you're speaking about. So I wanted to break it down a little bit more, because you've spoken about what that emanation is in some of in this book that I read, in the supportive tools for your journey home. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's quite profound, and now scientists can measure these particles that are being emitted from the center of our galaxy, which is a black hole basically. And now they're calling it. It feels like the way they're measuring it is like a supernova. So it's like this vacuum, and this ascension. The womb is pregnant, and the birth canal is ready. And we are all ripe and primed for this birth, to do this birth with her. And in the meantime, the huge opportunity, we need to be in this for the long run. One of the questions that Kelsey asked is, well, what about the date? You know, we thought it was going to be this date or that date, and we've been given so many dates. But that's not our focus right now. We don't need to be focusing on any dates. What we need to do is take it. We want to stretch it out and be here for the long run, as long as it takes for our souls to get the greatest opportunity of this time of expansion. And all the souls that are incarnate here on the planet need some time to have the opportunity to claim their own sovereignty without letting the ascension do it for them. And that's why we incarnated here at this time, because of that opportunity. So when we use the tools that are available to us, we are doing our own work. It's not a rescue mission. It's our own self-rescue mission by claiming our sovereignty. And while we're inside of the belly of the beast, of this darkest cycle, of the darkest place in the local proxy of our galaxy, at least. And so that's quite a profound thing, and it's a testament to the strength of our souls. When we get to tap into that kind of strength, all of us that are attracted to this information means that we were attracted to doing this work because our soul came here for this experience. And it's a profound opportunity. Now, there's also doing our work, and something that Kelsey said as well, one of the listeners that wanted to have this question answered, is, so we've done all of our shadow work, and now do we just keep looking for shadow, even though I think some of us have graduated. We're doing enough of our own shadow work, and the next step, the next level, is accessing our memory to the 13th dimension. What I call the 13th dimension is where I am when I'm experiencing home. And it's where all souls are together, unified as one being, vibrating one sound together, and we're immensely in love with each other and supporting each other's, witnessing and honoring each other's magnificence of their the diversity of each and every one of us, and madly in love with each other, and there's not one soul missing. And when we can remember that, I don't want to call it bliss or euphoria, because some of the Eastern traditions call it that, and when it's not quite that same thing. I'm talking about remembering home. And this is innate in every soul. It's our existence right as souls. And so our role now, and the earth asked me to do this in my ceremony on the 21st. She said, this is all they need to know. They don't need to know complex ways to ascend. All they need to do is remember home, remember our love for one another, remember love of self, remember love of source, that which created us as we created ourselves with it. And that is the most important piece. If we can hone that frequency here and hone that home inside of ourselves, that is our ticket through the transition. And it also assists others to raise their frequency so that we can bring them along into this expansion.
Wow. That is, well, I don't have words for that. And it's so important, and you talk about it quite a lot in your work, to see the eternal soul of each person and to speak to it, regardless of how much they're hurting you or how much trauma you've had in the past with them. We here at Shadowland Voyagers believe that there are many people that still have some journeys through the Shadowland to make conscious, but holding that balance of where there is to go, that we don't dilly-dally, we don't get lost in that, but we just, it rises in us and we clear it and we move through. But do you have methods or recommendations for people how they can hold that kind of vision? I know that I wanted to ask you in this first half hour something that you said about broadening our frequency, which seems to be a skill that would be helpful in what you're describing. Can you give us any... I don't like the word advice. What's the word? Anything about that?
Yeah, like a broader understanding of it. So in Liquid Mirror, that book came to me from some of my experiences, 333 being awakened every night, and I would get these spheres of understanding and had to translate it into human words. And the vision that I got was exactly what a soul looks like. The energy of the anatomy of the soul is that there's a center point, and that is where infinite, unbelievable, unconditionally loving light is emitting through you from an infinite place at an unfathomable rate that we don't have access to memory of yet, but we are gaining more access to that memory. And what that feels like is being purely loved unconditionally exactly as you are. That's experiencing God flowing through you. And that is the broadest frequency that there is, really. And the reason why we haven't experienced that is because of the dark project that we've all agreed to do with the dark ones. And so they just created these imprints so that we would forget how to access that memory. And they did that by wounding parenting systems, the government system, the pornography system, the Hollywood system, and so that people would not even be interested in authentic self or authentic love, like cordless love with one another. And so our way to broaden our frequency is to debug our souls from the matrix and figure out where our insecurities came from, mainly because that's really what dense frequency is insecurity. And that's how when we have those insecure imprints, life mirrors those imprints of the soul through disharmonious relationships or codependent relationships. So if we use life as a mirror of our souls, we have all the keys on how to debug our souls from the matrix. Because if we have a trigger or a codependent situation, that's the red flag, or even the ego points out these things. So we can just go in and find out where those insecurities came from. And with that awareness in and of itself, it is such a powerful thing. Awareness is the flashlight into the dark, with just awareness alone. And then in my technique, I use awareness, self-honesty, and then I breathe. I use a release breath to consciously release that dense fear, because it's really what it feels like. Insecurity feels like fear. So if we can increase our capacity to feel and have the courage to feel those deep, painful wounds. And it hurts. It's hard. But nowadays it's so quick. You just feel it and it's gone like in a snap. That's the access that we have now. So if we consciously do this proactive self-healing, we're broadening our frequency every time we do it. And then life mirrors your new you through great relationships, satiating experiences of living and loving, being alive.
I wonder if it would be helpful to read this list of finding fears for people to help them identify where they might have some stuck energy.
Mm-hmm.
Can I read this?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, in the form of anger, in the form of worry, repeating patterns, shame, judgment, control and perfectionism, hidden agendas, codependency, outsourcing our self-worth, guilt, shoulds, attachments, jealousy, boredom. That's a very great, comprehensive list. I recognize most of those from my journey.
Yeah, we all recognize them.
Mm-hmm. So what you're saying then is, okay, recognize them. You don't fall under them and just start acting out and reacting to them but you go, oh, this is up, but you hold that core of who you really are, this energy that is now being so emboldened, made full and rich for us. Hold the other one and just hold them both simultaneously and let it transmute. Just let it go. Just let it go. It's a huge act of radical self-responsibility. But the more you do it, the less power it has over you. Is that how you're coming to understand it as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. Every time we release a wound, an emotional wound, our physical health changes. Our emotional experience of life changes. So the more I do this work, the more I have developed this filter that I call unbearable beauty. So I can see nature in a deeper, more loving, intimate relationship way. When I go through town, I can see the bigger picture of understanding the suffering of these souls and still see unbearable beauty in their own process. The unbearable beauty of existence itself, how God created the dimensions for souls to experience themselves in all these different ways. And this unbearable beauty has been, it has satiated my soul, because I used to see things in black and white and duality, through duality, the good and the bad, and the false light, the dark light, and rather than perceive things through that duality, seeing things through the unbearable beauty is just understanding the bigger project of things, that we all contracted to do this together. And by doing that creates sovereignty. And that's 5D is the first plane of non-duality. And there's still some duality there, according to my perception. But for us to hone that kind of perceptual state inside of us now, then we can experience life in a completely different way, and then hone the frequency through the birth canal as we're doing this together.
Well, as I sense into your energy, I just feel such a divine feminine flowering and blossoming in your soul. I feel so much love for life, and I feel so much sensuality and so much passion. And I would like to talk a little bit about so many things, but about the divine feminine. You say, now of how what does this have to do, this moment right now, have to do with this divine feminine return? What is the divine feminine? I mean, in your words, in your understanding.
The divine feminine, if you can imagine, she has 4 braids. And it's the being that has never been touched, the pure feminine that has never been contaminated or harmed or defiled. And she's the nurturer. She's the sensual, sacred goddess. She's the warrior, the one that protects, which she stands for. She is connected to source and ever has been disconnected from source. And she's this feminine being that loves giving. And the earth is our local proxy of the purest form of the divine feminine. She's a conscious, alive, loving being, and she's my greatest teacher of unconditional giving and unconditional love, because look what she's doing. Everything that we have in our lives, she has given to us: our shelter, our clothing, our food, our children, our bodies. And so if you want to connect with what that is, the way I've done it is to connect with her. And she is really quite something, really.
Well, it feels like really a part of that is living in you as you. And I would like to take the time, if you resonate with this, to tell the story, a bit of the story of how you went from being kidnapped by the Illuminati into a satanic cult to becoming such an incredible manifestation of this pure love. Because that's a pretty big leap. We have about 1 minute now, and I know, so we probably need to address that when we come back. But because, I mean, there are so many people out there that I know that they hear all of stuff, but still inside themselves, they wonder, how do I get from where I am to where I really want to be? And it still can feel quite daunting, I think, to many people.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah. I'll just say one thing that came up when you were talking earlier is this message that 5D is a state of being, not a destination.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And that's how we're honing that here now. And that's where we have peace.
Absolutely.
And you were saying in one of your documents that Ma has been holding off the real rocking and rolling on the surface so that some more of us can step up into this broadening and dimensional shift with her.
Yeah, the sun and the earth are planning this out together.
Stay with us. We'll be right back and dive deeper into the experiences and understandings of this remarkable woman, Kelly La Sha. Kelly La Sha. We were just talking to Kelly. Yes, I was being absolutely amazed by a woman who started her journey being abducted by the Illuminati into the satanic cult, who is now as much her description of the divine feminine as any woman I know, in manifesting a profound amount of openness and love and dedication and proactive participation with life in the ascension process. So I don't know what you feel like sharing about your own personal journey tonight, Kelly, but I would love to hear anything you felt like speaking to that point.
Okay, well, recently I'll start with what I've experienced recently of memory of why I chose to come here. And the being that showed up in my life, which is the being I call Moda, this being and I decided to do this project together. So when I incarnated and ended up in this dark training, and it didn't last long, it was probably less than a week. And when my stepfather came and rescued us from that, and then Moda became my teacher because my father was a channel. He was actually a medium, which is different from a chattel. He would leave his body. And so this being Moda would come in and started teaching me and helping me remember reality so that I wouldn't be disillusioned by the illusion here. You know, the religions and the governments and the everything that mainstream humanity is bought into. So he helped me understand what created the cultures and what created the suffering and pretty much every culture that exists on the planet. And it's pretty intense, really, if you can tap into it emotionally just a little bit to feel the amount of suffering that's going on the planet and how long it's been going on and how these souls have been incarnate and being forced to reincarnate over and over again rather than getting to go back to source before they come back to another incarnation. It's very intense. This project has been very intense for souls. And so my training got me to remember why I came here, and it was to spread this awareness with others, as well as, my role in the ascension process itself. And everyone has that innate capacity to remember why they came here and what their role and their mission is in this whole process together. And it's really everyone's responsibility. That's what Star sees, and that's what light workers are to be doing right now, is to clear out the way of their own souls, get rid of what isn't theirs, all that density, all these insecurities, and open up to our capacity so that we can remember what our capacity is and what it is specifically, because each soul has a very specific purpose and specialty. And this is what I'm encouraging everyone to do, is to gain back that memory.
Yes.
And the way to do it is, how we've been taught to meditate, and so we just sit in stillness and in silence. Well, my path has been to ask questions. I ask innocent questions, and I'm willing to hear the answer, even if it's a hard, difficult answer to process. And most of them are. Sometimes I want to say, I'm not asking any more questions. I don't want to know more. But I think that that is how I've gained, if I track back how I gained all this access, is through asking questions. And they would say, yep, that's another good question. Just keep asking more questions. The more I do, the more answers I receive, and then the more memory I gain of my capacity and what I'm doing here. And everyone came here for a very specific purpose, for a very specific reason. And that memory is innate within every soul.
Now, who are you asking the questions of exactly? Because I know a lot of us are wary of these 4D demigods and psychopathic maniacs that are posing as God.
Exactly.
And there's so much of a zoo going on in 4D that we're getting a little bit shy of asking. So how do you ask, and who do you ask?
Exactly. That's a very good question. For me, I like to think of it as my higher self. So the way I track who I'm talking to is to track the integrity and the intention behind the being that I'm communicating with. So I look for integrity and the intention behind communication with me, whoever I'm communing with. So I've had experiences communing with Source, with Moda, with my higher self, with fifth dimensional beings. And those are the only ones that I'm even interested in communing with, because I trust the information I get from them, because I trust the integrity behind the energy of this communication. And so I would encourage everyone to, if they want to commune with their guides, make sure that they're fifth dimensional beings at least. Not people are intrigued with the UFOs and the fourth dimensional beings, and those, the fourth dimension is mainly every being that's in the fourth dimension has an agenda, whether it be false light or Jehovah kinds of energies. They have agenda, whether it be codependent or just self-serving. Service to others is codependent to me. So what I recommend to people, if they want to commune with their guides that they can trust, is to insist upon those frequencies that are completely integral, and their intention has their highest good in their intention. And then when you can tap into that frequency, then you can start asking questions, and you can even test them. You ask questions that go deep inside of your own matrix, and asking about, help me remember. And beings that come from the fourth dimension can't help you do that.
Oh.
Yeah, I want to validate what you're saying, because that's the way I've gotten, the way my journey has been too, is a contemplation as opposed to a meditation. And I have also learned to distinguish the difference between messages, and I find that messages from my higher self come sort of as a chunk of knowing from deep within, and then my mind will translate it into words. And depending on the complexity of the information, it might take, it might be immediate, it might take actually a few days, even a few months. But there's always a grace and a gentleness to it, whereas information that comes from, say, a fourth dimensional entity is very abrupt. It usually has some fear and like a hurry up, we got to get this done thing, and oh, danger, warning. It's like when my higher self speaks to me about something I need to do and it's important, it might have an urgency, but there's still a softness to it, and it's very comfortable to move into that space.
That's a great example. Exactly. Yeah, I have.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm quoting from you, Kelly. God returns reverence and love when we pray with our emotions.
Oh.
I think this may fit in here.
Oh, that's so perfect. Thank you so much for bringing that up. This is how I started my relationship, because I did leave my path after my training and just shut the whole thing down and went into just pure light and love and didn't want to know about the dark. And then I found shamanism, which helped me gain access back to my own memory on my own. And then I started developing a relationship that I could trust with my guides again. And the way I did that was by first starting with just source, that which created us, and emotionally connected with it by loving it. And just, I love you, I love you, I love you. Innocently just pouring my heart out, loving my existence and thinking it for my existence. And then it would come back and respond with the same exact amount of emotion and love back to me. I love you. I love you. I love you. And then I would thank it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And then it would come back to me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And it's like, what? Me? Really little me? The one that screwed up my whole life and left my path and really has to love me. It's true. It's true. This
so
is
huge. Yeah. This is a very divine feminine way of connecting with God. And this is what I feel from you. You're connecting with Source in a different way than we're used to. You talk about level 3, one in your book, Surfing the Great River of Change, developing personal relationship with God, and finding that real connection with the Creator. And it really touches me deeply. It reminds me that I think these are the ways we do connect, but a lot of times maybe we don't even know we are. We just, think maybe we're making it up.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that's why it's really worth to take time aside to sit in your heart, and rather than meditate, develop a relationship, develop an intimate, loving relationship with that which created you. And we hear too that yes, we created ourselves, but then if we just go, well, therefore I am God, well, that's pretty much what Jehovah is doing. And that's how you cut yourself off from Source. If you don't continue a deep, intimate, loving relationship with that which created you, even though we were with it while we created ourselves, then that's how we get lost. And so it's really important anytime that we're not in the 13th dimension that we still keep our umbilical cord and our connection to Source. So especially while we're here in 3D, it's profoundly significant for us to take time to develop that relationship. And with our guides as well, because they're assisting us greatly through this transition.
I'm hogging the conversation, Elizabeth and Christine, but I do have one more question. Because I know we're all feeling really passionately called to connect with you. and we all have a lot of questions. We're going to probably just have to get you back on the show. And I am hogging the conversation, and I apologize, but I'm not
at all. Not at all. It
We have
feels
plenty
like
of time,
flow.
Sienna.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Because you talk about the harmonic living equations in the book I read, and intention, one, trust, openness, and acceptance, and living with trust, openness, and acceptance of what is. Found
Wait, Sienna?
Yeah, Sienna, you're breaking up really, really intensely. Maybe I can give you a call back, and that will clear up the connection.
Right. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Let me try to call you back again, and she's talking about harmonic equations. So Kelly,
Yes, I can speak to that.
Okay.
I see it as a medicine wheel, and there's 4 quadrants. And if you imagine your soul superimposed on the medicine wheel rather than the cross, by the way, because that's where we stay in harmony and connected to our source. This is what the medicine was originally about. The way I downloaded the harmonic living equations was superimposed on the medicine wheel. And first of all, we have awareness. And within awareness, we have to be willing to be self-honest so that we don't have any blind spots. So we want to be able to see the big picture as well as the small picture and our inner energetic environment, which means our own emotional wounds, and be able to see clearly our outer energetic environment so that we engage with relationships that are supportive of our free expression rather than, some of the codependent relationships, what they do. So awareness has several tiers of practice. And on the opposite side of the medicine wheel of awareness is surrender. So when we surrender, we are surrendering to that which we trust. And that to me is source, God, and self. When we trust ourselves and we trust source, and that from that intimate relationship that we have with it, we can let go of anything that keeps us from that. Surrender is such a huge piece for me. Mm-hmm. And then the other 2 pieces of this on the opposite side of the medicine wheel is non-attachment and full engagement. And so we look at our codependent relationships, we look at our attachments to our animals, our pets, our material items, our job, our position, anywhere where we outsource power and position through our jobs and titles and PhDs and so forth. Those are all kinds of attachments that we have. And that part of our work right now is to recognize where our attachments are so we let go of them. But then if we are too non-attached in general, we're not fully engaged. And full engagement is the best part of this, is when we're willing to increase our capacity to feel and really engage with loving living here and get more emotionally connected with our loved ones, go deeper into our relationships with one another, with our lovers, with our girlfriends, with our coworkers, with our children, with our parents, wherever people have capacity. It's not a push, because, you can see sometimes when people have their capacity is, they don't want to go deep. They prefer to stay in denial. And so we all have those relationships as well, but to love those relationships unconditionally and to not allow the cords to seep in where we're over giving or, going to visit family when we really don't want to be, that kind of thing. Boundaries here right now, especially through the holidays, because we need to stay grounded in our work here right now. So those are the 4 quadrants of the harmonic living equations.
Those are similar to the steps to wholeness as well. I see here, which I think is just fabulous, because anyone who's done this journey, is going through this journey, comes to the same understanding here, which tells you it's absolute truth. So I love this: steps to wholeness, surrender, resistance, and willing to feel, awareness, self-honesty, source, feel, and release wounds, active self-love. I mean, that's it. You really, you nailed it there. And your book is so great. It's so easy to understand. It's simple. The language is clear, and you give readers the understanding, the big picture, and then the tools needed to do this work. I think you did such a great job with that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's been very gratifying to hear what people get out of it, especially when they do the workbook, because the workbook is a very intense workshop, but it's solo. You're on your own, and as long as you practice self-honesty, and if you can see your eyes if you can see yourself through the eyes of God, you're not afraid of yourself. You don't judge yourself. You know, if we can just, that's one piece of debugging our souls from the matrix, is this judgment that we have on ourselves because we're afraid of how we seem to others. We don't have this self-trust. We don't love ourselves. We don't appreciate our qualities. We only look at our negative aspects of ourselves. And when we let that go, well, then this journey just becomes more fun. It's like, well, let's dig up the next one, because then every single wound is a gem. It's a treasure. Yeah. It is a treasure hunt. So we find the gem underneath every wound, and then we become more free and expressive, which is what 5 is like, when we're totally free to be creative no matter what it looks like. It's just exuberant. It's exhilarating.
It so is. I mean, that's absolutely what you do. You find the gems. You find this gratitude. It is just, and then the more you do it, the more you want to do it. It becomes fun, because you know, as you go through the process, how much you're going to get back your more authentic expression. And it becomes really fun, even though maybe right in the moment it kind of sucks when you're going right through a really deep wound. But the fuel is knowing the outcome. And I think a workbook is really great, because someone new to this type of inner work maybe doesn't know where to begin. And, you know, it's sort of like riding a bike. You can tell someone, okay, you're going to get on and then you're going to start pedaling, but you kind of got to get on and start doing it. And once you get your own technique kind of down, then it becomes just a way of life. It becomes second nature. So I think it's great that you have a workbook out.
Oh, thank you. Yes, and people have put some good use to it. When I get to see that someone really uses it in that way, and I can see their lives change, their relationships change, their addictions drop, and so it's very gratifying work.
I want to say that as I read the book and in the last 2 days, and you know, Kelly, I could hear your voice as I was reading the book. It was beautiful. I recognized your energy in that, and also that the energy of the book is very clean, and there's not energetic cording going through it. There's no fear or threat overtones, and there's a lot of useful recommendations. And I get that you are sharing your personal experiences that worked for you, and that this is part of being in service. So I just want to thank you for your contribution to humanity, and I am recommending your book left and right in the last 48 hours. But there's something that I feel right now to bring into the conversation, because and it has to do with self-love, and I've become certain within my own experience that unconditionally loving myself is fundamental to be able to express myself in an authentic way. And there's a particular paragraph in the book that I like to read. We can't share water if our glass is empty. We experience love from others only by vibrating at the frequency of love, and love happens in direct proportion to the degree with which we love ourselves. The more we heal, the more we vibrate at the frequency of love and tap into abundant ways to give it. Love is the receptor for love, and self-love is the release of shame and guilt. And there's one other thing I want to say about this before I ask you the ultimate question. Back in the 80s, I remember I would watch TV every now and again. I kind of was cutting myself off at that point, but there was the Saturday Night Live skit that used to just crack me up, and it was like during the self-help era, where that guy sits in front of the mirror and gives himself affirmations. And it just, you know, I mean, and then 5 years ago, a woman told me to get in front of the mirror and tell me that I love me. And I just rolled my eyes. I was just like, whatever, you know, because that relationship was in my mind, that association, that it's stupid. But I would really like you to describe that particular technique that you found, because I found it too, and I think it's beautiful. But the way that you verbalized it in your book, it just really, I would really like you to talk about your experience of discovering self-love in the mirror.
Well, in my book as well, there's a story of this woman named Evie, and she had, I don't remember the disease. Do you remember the disease that she had? It was an incurable disease, and she had
was she in a wheelchair, I think, right?
Yeah.
But it didn't say what the disease was, only that she couldn't walk. I don't think it said what the disease was.
Yeah, I don't remember now, but she had this disease, and I think she even had, a doctor told her that she was only going to live a few months. And so she decided to, and she never liked her body because she was overweight and never really developed a personal loving relationship with herself. But she figured, well, heck, I'm not going to live much longer anyway. So she rolled her wheelchair in front of the mirror and started making a list of all the things that she detested about herself. And it was a very long list. And then she wrote a list of all the things that she appreciated about herself. And she would sit there and do this in front of the mirror. And that's not easy to do. And after days and days and days of this, her list of self-love became longer. And eventually she healed from her incurable disease. And now that's a testimony of how powerful this frequency is. Now, and for me personally, it was a long journey because I'm a very private, shy person. And to be doing the work I'm doing now, I had to go even deeper into my work to just feel comfortable, being out there and vulnerable in the world. And just putting my personality out just as it is. And to do that, I had to start appreciating all of these little fine qualities of myself. You know, the way I giggle when I giggle, or, you know, my humor inside. I'm laughing all the time inside with my soul and I are making jokes on each other all the time. And that's my favorite part of my personality. And so that's kind of how I've developed a personal relationship with my soul through that kind of, it's not just self-love. It's not, oh, I love you. It's like, oh my God, you're a kick, man. I want to hang out with you forever. It's just, it's fun, you know?
But it was that gazing into your eyes, the root into the root of your essence that seemed to really assist you to connect in with.
Yes, it's an emotional experience. Like if you can imagine, okay, just like take a puppy, for example, or your dog, if you have a dog that you just love and adore, and experience that love that you have for your dog. And now imagine, do you have that kind of love for yourself? And if not, take that feeling that you have for your dog and transfer it over to yourself.
In the mirror.
Yeah.
While you're looking in your eyes.
Mm-hmm. Or even if it's easier with your eyes closed, because mirror work is really hard. I encourage people to start with their eyes closed, and then build up to the mirror, because the mirror is hard because we've been trained to self-loathe our appearance, to self-loathe our everything. I mean, it's hard. Mirror work is hard, and some people can do that easier than others. So I would encourage people for those that it might be difficult to do, then start with your eyes closed.
Yeah, it had to be sprung on me because every single time the reflection was seen, it was just those thoughts constantly that are just like so disempowering, and next thing you know, you're slouching and walking like a zombie, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so you've made progress with mirror work then, have you?
Well, it was sprung on me one day. I was in the flow for weeks on end and just feeling so much joy. It's one of those grace times, you know, where I didn't have a lot of work to do. And I was just flowing with my river of life and being of service, really. And just this one morning, you know, I was at my mom's house and she says, you know, let's go and have some breakfast before you take off. And I was like, okay. I said, give me 5 minutes. And her jaw dropped to the floor because I take 2 hours. You know, I've got to take a shower and put on full makeup. And that morning I looked in my eyes and it was just right there.
So I can relate to that.
Yes. Well, we'll be back at the other side of the break. Thank you.
Radio Network.
Welcome back, Shadowland Voyagers. Your experience perception, and questions are deeply appreciated here. Join the conversation. Call in at 213-233-3998 or 888-832-2027.
Welcome back, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you clear.
Yeah, you sound good.
All right. Cool. I was going to read a little bit from your book around creativity because I found this so inspiring and beautiful. Just because we have a little 5-minute thing here, and then we can open it up to wherever we want to go. Does that work for you?
Yes.
Okay. So you're saying that every moment is fertile and alive with unseen depth and potential that can only be brought to fruition if attended to like you would to the vulnerable seedlings erupting in your garden. This is bringing forth your creativity. Of course, the seeds to which we are here referring are imaginative in nature because it's how every creation begins. We know that the size, the scope, and the quality of our aspirations are definitely constrained by the size, scope, and quality of our beliefs. And we all carry our own personal and limiting self-doubts, which end up determining the range of our creative imagination, emotional drive, and their ultimate manifestations. So we are looking to relax the hyper-vigilant and self-critical ego self and introduce more of the open and innocent creative inner child. In a more playful posture, we dance with the divine and creatively refine our ability to freely access emergent and satisfying possibilities. Every soul's true gift follows along the path of its interests. We forgive our limited past creations as products of our own naivety and innocence. And with fresh awareness, we plant the new version of ourselves into the ground of being by following our enthusiasm and passion. While we play, we are lost within presence and barely notice that we are creating. This is just so beautiful, Kelly. If you truly believe that the soul is eternal, then what would be the point of sacrificing your life to save it? If death turns out to be erroneous assumption, then instead of clamoring for higher ground, we could rather be growing a glorious garden right here. So let's imagine what brings joy to our hearts and start planting seeds in the now, because all the fact is we are in the process through which creation emerges. We are all equal parts in the body of God itself. We speak for God, feel for God, love for God, manifest every virtue, feature, and reflection of the God that we all too often look for elsewhere. The path to our completion is not a road to some distant place or time, but rather it is an awakening in the present to your true and rightful heritage as an active co-creator with, as God. So by culminating, the joyous way to engage life is to take your place with divinity and honor as the local proxy of God itself. Stay with us. We'll be right back for hour 2 with Kelly La Sha, who wrote all of those beautiful words.
Well, actually, Perry wrote that chapter.
Okay. Well, you got yourself a fine man there.
Welcome back to Shadowland Voyagers. We're here tonight with Kelly La Sha, and we have a question from the chat. I'll read it here. It says, how does one trust when our memories lie to us, especially because they are constantly changing? For example, what I remember is how I remembered it the last time I recalled it. Kelly, do you have any insight on that?
Well, we're continuously emerging. You know, what soul is, who we are as soul, is we're becoming, we're God becoming. And so we can access our memory in terms of what we came here to do. That's remembering soul purpose. So we can navigate how we develop our creation, our creative expression here. And so in terms of getting more personal into what that is, everyone has a soul purpose and a gift to offer. Now, back on the 13th dimension, we're all poets and musicians and dancers and actors, and we have all of these capacities and talents and gifts. But when we are incarnate and into one reality, especially in 3D, we only took a few specific gifts with us that we can use here now. So we're not all of the above. We're just a specific. We have a specific gift that we brought with us to accomplish what we came here to do. So we want to remember what our gift is and why we came here, what our purpose in being here is. And then we develop this creativity inside of ourselves in terms of how we do that here now. And then our memory changes because we're creating our experience of this.
Mm-hmm. When we're in alignment within our soul and its purpose, then that's where we're open to this information from this knowledge in our memories. And it seems to me that our interests are what sort of lead us down that path. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. Whatever we've been attracted to is, even as children, you know, we play acted these things out before we forgot, when we were 5, 3, 4, and 5 and 6 years old. If we can remember back back then, what we were attracted to, what were we pretending back then, usually gives us a cue in terms of what our soul purpose is, because we had more memory back then.
Mm-hmm. We shut down for different reasons. Yeah. So it's opening it back up again. One thing I would like to talk about, which you go into great detail in your book, is stealing energy, whether consciously or unconsciously. Mm-hmm. And it seems like an important topic to discuss because it's something we've all done. We all do to a certain degree until we really start self-sourcing. Can you talk a little bit about that and like how one can recognize it and what they can do to either stop themselves from feeding off of others or stop others from feeding off of them?
Okay. Well, we can recognize any time that we're outsourcing our energy, when we're looking for validation, when we're looking for approval, when we're looking for love outside of ourselves. And codependent relationships really make this pretty clear. If you're in one, you'll know it, because it doesn't feel good. It's not a pleasant, harmonious, engaging, loving relationship. So if you find yourself in one of those relationships, whether it be with a lover or with coworkers or with your children, you have to tap into where that wound came from and do your work to release it. And there are tools in Liquid Mirror to help you do that. NLP is a good one as well. There's several modalities out there. I suggest that everyone find the tool that they resonate with to figure out where the leaks came from. And they all came from the matrix, but we have to debug our souls from the matrix actively. Mm-hmm. And the best tool that we have is seeing life as a mirror. All of our relationships are mirrors of our soul and our relationship with ourselves. So anytime that we're outsourcing love or approval through titles or relationships, then we can go, oh, red flag, there's one right there, because we want to pull those out. Those are the insecurity cords that we have. And then you replace that with self-love. And when you do that, then the cords dissolve, and then you're free to be exactly who you are and feel really great about who you are.
Definitely. I'm not sure if you're talking because you cut out a little bit, so I'm hoping I'm not talking over you here. But I did find in my journey that I was doing a whole lot of self-sourcing from my husband, and what I came to realize in a dark night of the soul, I had to face that I was taking energy from him, and exactly, it was because I wasn't truly loving myself, and so I wasn't able to accept love from him or give it to him. And boy, when I realized that, it was pretty terrible at first, but then I had to heal some old wounds that I had gotten when I was a child. And once I did that and accepted my journey, I was able to then start loving myself and then having a reciprocal loving relationship with him. So I definitely know what you're speaking of is so important. It's crucial.
It is. And our leaks are, the way we take energy is the same way we leak our energy. So it's one and the same. And we don't want to be leaking energy. We want all of our energy available to us. So it's so worth doing this work, even though it seems hard. We're like in the dark night of the soul of it. But that's when we know, that I'm making progress, is we don't have to be afraid of those hard spots.
So we have a question in the chat box. Is there a purpose for codependency? Like going to that place, is there an ultimate purpose? And they say, I want to believe there's a purpose for all that manifests in our lives.
Yes, we souls have familial ties, and we have contracts to support each other in whatever we needed to grow from and to. And so when we find ourselves in these relationships and we can just see the bigger picture of it, and see that, we just agreed to play this out. And thank you for playing that role for me. Even if it's a perpetrator, thank you for playing that role for me, because my soul came here to experience this. So when we're perceiving this through a non-dual perspective, instead of hating the perpetrator or resenting the perpetrator, we not only forgive the perpetrator, but we appreciate the role that it played for us. And that is how we claim sovereignty, because when we hold grudges or resentment, that's holding us back. Forgiveness isn't just for the perpetrator, it's for you as well. And that's the deep process of recapitulation that I talk about, that it's one of the most accelerated ways of growth that we have available right now. And this is what the Inca and the Toltec use in death rites, to set a soul free so they don't get locked in 4D, to set their souls free, to go all the way home. And this is what we get to use right here, right now. It's a very powerful tool.
And it becomes where you don't even, the idea of even forgiveness, you rise above that, because you realize that everything that ever happened was meant to, and so you're grateful. So there's nothing even to forgive.
Yeah. Yeah.
You go a bit more into that process in your own words. For us, how people really take themselves step by step through that?
Yes, I can tell you what I've done. Well, the first time that I did this, I locked myself in a room for 3 days, and I made a list of every relationship I've ever had, everyone that I could remember relating to, including this little boy named Scott Brown in kindergarten that made fun of my toes. I had just a little charge with him still. And then all the way up to all of the girlfriends I've ever had, and my boyfriends, and my husband, and my teachers, and just like really fine-tuned, went right into cleaning up every single relationship and setting everyone free. Contract over. We have completed our contract, and thank you. And sometimes it gets a little tricky with the ones that, the painful relationships, those are tricky, but because we want to own our part in it as well. Sometimes we're the ones that need to apologize and own our innocence and the follies that we've made. And the innocence is the best part, because at some point we don't even need to forgive ourselves, because we can see the innocence of our actions, and especially in this matrix, because the matrix kind of just imposed this throughout the culture, so that we just our behaviors become automatic. So we own it to a certain degree, where we can see where it came from, and then release it, not just through self-forgiveness, but through seeing how innocent we were in the process. And then that's deep healing right there. And again, it gets us deeper into sovereignty when we do that. So that was my, the first experience of that, is making that list. And I really went through it thoroughly. It took me 3 days to get through the list. And I was a different person when I walked out of the room. My life changed forever. And nowadays, when I'm working with people, I work on my altar, and I have stones that, I'll choose an object, a feather or a stone, and hold that person in my heart space, and literally next to my heart. And I'll tune into the frequency of that soul and sense the contract that we had together, appreciate that contract, and then just send pure love to that being. pure love, no matter what we've done together. And I gain peace from that. And then the funny thing is, though, is that they gain peace from it, because I often get a phone call the next day from that person that I worked with the day before saying, wow, something shifted. What's going on? I just felt like calling you, and I haven't been thinking about you in a long time. So this is quite effective, and we can do this with our ancestors that have passed on, or people that you're not in contact with anymore. It's really worth doing, because it sets you free, and it's creating harmony on the earth as well. Because, I mean, look at what the planet is doing. We're all fighting. My God, your God, it's insane what's going on the planet right now. So for those of us that can create harmony with our relationships, if not with them personally, at least inside of ourselves, that is honing home here as well.
You make a very bold statement that just really profoundly impacted me. I was reading it this morning. Basically, it was that we are responsible to create happiness. It's not like, well, that would be nice, but like literally, that's our task, each one of us, to create happiness and to live in peace inside ourselves. And I'd like to hear what you have to say about that at this time, because I think that that's a revolutionary concept, actually.
Yeah, it's powerful, because I've suffered a lot in my life. I've had a lot of depression and hopelessness, and I had to work my way through it. And what I came down to is when I catch myself in a struggle, I reframe it. I go, okay, am I making this worse than it really needs to be? I know I'm suffering, and the suffering feels real, and it is real because I'm processing something. But then if I can just slow down with it and go, all right, well, this is just like a frequency that I'm mulching, and just let myself mulch the frequency, and yet knowing that I'm going to cultivate happiness once I get through it. And then once I get through it, my capacity to cultivate that happiness is stronger and more powerful. And now I can keep that as my stable emotion throughout life for the most part. And then keeping in touch with what that happiness feels like, because sometimes we get so far astray from it. It's like, oh my God, I don't even know if I'm ever going to feel happy again. This is just too intense. Have you guys ever felt that?
Absolutely.
Oh, heavens, yes.
Absolutely.
Hopelessness. Yeah. And so when we access that frequency, and, in sessions that I do with people, I bring them to source, and they can really sit in the lap of God and feel what that pure peace and satiation feels like, the appreciation of existing, like the deep gratitude and enthrallment to exist. That memory has been taken from us, and this is up to us to reclaim that memory. And it's a frequency, and once you can just remember it for a second, you can use it anytime that you want, because we get stuck and lost in the murk and the muck and the mud, and we can just pull that memory back of what it feels like to be happy or satiated. And then that's mastery of frequency. Mastery of emotion is mastery of frequency, because frequency is emotion, and emotion is the language of the soul. So, and the frequency that we emit. So when we can choose that frequency and vibrate at that frequency through feeling it emotionally, well, that's a very powerful thing to have.
Well, that is exactly why we voyage through the Shadowland, not because we love dark drama, but so that we can continually return back home with more of ourselves and more of our soul essences every time. And it's so important to realize, and I mean, I feel resistance even talking about it, even now, after all the work I've done, that it is my responsibility to live in happiness and peace. No one can do it for me. And it is really my task and my job right now. We're almost to the break again, I think maybe a couple more minutes. I would like to hear about your altar, how you make an altar, what you do with your altar, the energy you bring, the emotion you bring, and talk more about this mastering of our emotional frequency. Because again, to me that is a female emotional intelligence work, and not many people in a patriarchal culture that suppressed and demonized emotion, it to me is rightful that a woman, even though I know you're with your partner Perry, he's doing this jointly with you, but that women have an understanding. How do we bring back our emotion out of all of this suppression and pain and repression and muck, and become the masters? How do we create peace that's not a flat, dead peace, but that is an alive, fluid, passionate, in love with life peace?
Yes. Passionate, continuous emergence.
Ooh,
yes.
What's that? I want that bumper sticker.
Well, how much time?
Say that again. How much time do we have, Chris? Is anyone looking at the clock here? We have
2 minutes.
We have 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, we got time.
Okay. So with the altar work, and yes, we are bringing in the divine masculine and the divine feminine and healing both, because our archetypes have been really, really messed with, and that's why relationships are the way that they are. So Perry and I have been doing deep interpersonal work on our own, so that when we come together at the altar, we're in a pure we're in a pure state, embodying the pure archetypes. And then doing a lot of mending of the archetypes. And so Perry, stepping into this role as the divine masculine, his divine feminine is being balanced out. And it's been an amazing process to watch. I'm watching the balances emerge through him, because that's how the archetypes are contaminated, by being out of balance. And so the masculine, men are afraid to feel. We've been told not to cry as children, and men especially. And so they've blocked off that capacity to feel emotion mainly, or feel any connection to the earth, or feel any deep love for their woman. So this is the kind of work that we've been doing. And for me personally, I had to do my own work with equalizing my relationship with my masculine and feminine, and not being so dominant and forward with my man, to be soft, which is what men need to heal. We're healing dark fallen angels here. The wounded masculine, they're exhausted with their role. And so our role as divine feminine is to embrace them and heal them, give them massage, speak softly to them, open your heart and be feminine and pure and loving authentically. And that's how they blossom, and that's how we heal the archetypes. Did I get off the subject?
You are right on the subject. You are hitting the bullseye, in my opinion. We need to hear this. We don't understand this, and we have trouble accessing it. We really do. There's a lot to clear, but the power of it is, the waves are so strong now as never before. Okay, we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. We're in the final half hour of this show with Kelly, and we are jumping into the reason for everything, the why and the how. What is the reason for everything? Can you tell us? Mommy, would you tell me, please?
I think we all know what it is. We all innately know it's love. It's what we're thirsty for. And this is what they've kept from us. And our way back to it is just by removing the shackles that keep us from it. And it's just our self wounds. And as we release those, we access love. And self-love, it always has to start with self-love. So in terms of restoring the archetypes of the masculine and feminine, we all have to equally self-source. Self-source our love, self-source our energy. And when we do that and then go into relationship, we can love with cordless light cords. codependent cords look so different from light cords. I've actually only seen it once, where I've seen a couple that they're in love and in a harmonious relationship, and they don't have any cords or few cords. It's a rare thing on the planet, but this is what's available to us now. If we self-source our love and do our own interpersonal work, and then come together as divine feminine and divine masculine, that kind of love is the euphoric love that we've all been longing for. It's like I call it humanity the thirsty fish syndrome, because we're so thirsty for this love, but because we're outsourcing it so much, we don't get satiated. So we're insatiable, seeking it outside of ourselves incessantly, outside. And then we just get all burned out and frustrated, and then we're thirsty fish. But the thing is that the light that's emitting through the soul is the frequency of love. The only reason why we don't feel it is because of the density of our insecurities that clog up the energy channels in the soul. So when that's removed, then what will we feel in its place is this unconditional love from source. And then we fall in love with ourselves, like amazingly in love. Like, I mean, it's been so long since we felt that kind of love, but it's so intense to fall in love with yourself. It's the only thing that's really satiating at all.
It's such a beautiful experience. And once you get there, you don't go back. You just keep moving forward.
I want the DVD. I want to see the movie.
You're in it, Sienna.
Oh my God, I gotta live it. Oh my God.
So I think I want to address a question in the chat again. It flipped. Just gotta love these chat screens. Speaking to the energetic cords and self-love and things like that, this question asks, why is it that every time I have an emotional event, I can feel it first in my chest and not in my mind? I think they're relating to physical symptoms of conflict.
Well, the center of the soul, when I talk about this pinpoint of light that's at the center of the soul, that where we're receiving light from source, that the location of that physically in our body is it's not really exactly where the physical heart is, but I feel it a little behind my heart and a little underneath and up a little bit. And that is might be where we are when we're processing something really deep, and it's serving our souls. Our souls are responding, going, yes, do this deep work. This is good for me. This is good for me. And that's why we feel it there, because all of our work has to be done through the heart, because this is where we feel. If we're trying to figure our way through it with the mind, we'll never get there. I've worked with people that really prefer to go to a therapist because they want to stay in their mind, but this work can't be done philosophically. It has to be done emotionally. And that's where we feel. And so that could be why that person is feeling it in that location.
Yeah. I think a lot of us have spent plenty of time trying to intellectualize different spiritual ideas, trying to make sense of it and find our truths. And at the end of the day, we're just trying to put a Band-Aid on that ultimate work in front of us.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy to look for a Band-Aid, but it doesn't serve us really.
It serves to feel the feelings all the way through and find the source and put love there. At least that's my experience of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I found that too. You have to, once you locate it, you have to bring it into your heart, and that's where it's transformed into unconditional love. That's absolutely the process.
Yes.
Well, I just wanted to get back to the altar because at first I was a little surprised you're using an altar because I thought, wasn't that outsourcing? Maybe you're, but no, you're doing it in a very grounded and specific way, something that people can really do. And you're holding such an incredible frequency while you're doing it. Would you be at all open to discussing altar work, how people can use altars for this alchemy?
Yes. Well, the first thing I'd like to say is I've seen people's altars before where they have a statue or something that they're worshiping. and they're giving their altar power and using it for black magic or what have you. That's not anything close to the work that I'm doing with Perry. Our altar work is based in love and unity. And so we use the altar to have an outside representation of our inner process. And so when we're doing our recapitulations or healing something together with our own issues with each other, or wanting to connect deeper with source or our guides, or connect with our children when they're in another state, this is how we use our altar to commune with our soul family in a very heartfelt, loving, precious, intimate way.
So it sounds like you're directing the as above, so below construct to where you want to direct your life.
Yes, like imagine if like a virtual reality, so to speak, and it's like a practice ground, a playground. And so we've created this altar so that we could have traction in 3D with our 5D work. Mm-hmm. So we're in 5D when we're using the altar, not 4D, by the way, because, you know, a lot of shamans and a lot of gurus use 4D. We're accessing 5D and 13D when we're at the altar. And so we're using it as an outside representation of our inner work as 5D beings. And then that gives us access to assist souls that are stuck or to neutralize what the dark ones are doing right now. Mm-hmm. That sort of work. That's how we use the altar.
So I've been considering this actually recently, funny enough, and the reason is because a lot of what I have referred to in my own mind to kind of label it is like old magic, or it was hidden in the esoteric mystery schools, and it's been being used in that way by the dark agenda. And there's no reason why we can't tap into the old magic ourselves, or the earth magic, or any of that stuff. And that it seems like what we have remnants of in the mass influence of media is this fourth dimensional magic rather than the fifth dimensional magic. And it's almost like we're seeking our roots again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's our existence, right? This kind of work, and they've been using it against us. So why can't we take it back and use it for us?
Yes. It's not exactly externalizing. It's just reinforcing an initiative.
Yeah, I like that, how it's a reflection of what the work you're doing internally, but it also seems like it's anchoring those energies that you're working with, like if you're working with the earth or whatever, into this reality from 5D.
Yes, it anchors our work here in 3D. We see a difference every time. Every single intention that we have made at the altar has come true. And we make some pretty broad intentions, and we've seen every single one of them come true. And that's the access that we have right now. We're not just in 4D, we're in 5D, reverberating back and forth. So we have access. 5D, what 5D means is that our self-identity is expanded to such a degree that we realize that we're creators, and that means thought is instantly manifested. Mm. And that is so powerful. And it's backed by source. So think about, you as a creator, and what you care about. The why and the how of it is the love. What do you love? What do you care about? Is it souls being satiated? Is it remembering how much we love one another? The most precious fabric of existence in the entirety of all existence is the fabric of the soul. It is the most precious thing that exists and ever has existed and ever will exist. And that's all of my work comes from my love of all souls. And seeing, where they're caught right here, right now. They haven't been back to source in a very long time. So my work is more about, going to them and helping them remember energetically, so that they don't get so stuck and caught into their hopelessness, and to remind them of what home feels like and that they're going home soon.
Right, and to clear those energy channels, that's a huge part of this work. Because as you're saying, with intention, when you're bringing that intention from your 5D aspect, if you don't have clear channels, it's going to get maybe refracted. The intention's not going to come through as clearly and translate into this reality. Is that correct?
I'm not sure I heard the last piece right.
I was just saying that if you don't have clear channels, energetic channels, then when you're intending, setting an intention, then the energy from your 5D self can't quite manifest in this reality cleanly, so it gets refracted, or so your intentions don't necessarily actualize the way you want.
Okay. I agree, because to do this kind of work specifically, our energy channels do have to be cleared out, and so the groundwork has to be done first. And then once that's out of the way, and of course our work is never finished, I still continue to clear out my energy channels. And at the same time, once we drop into that, then our intentions become different. Because back in the day when we learned about the law of attraction, we were thinking, oh, I could manifest that car I wanted in abundance. And we weren't even asking for abundance. We're asking for the bigger house and the vacations and the travel and all of that. And that doesn't work. And so I have a recipe for manifestation, and it's knowingness, knowing that it is what is automatically. It's just truth. It's just truth. So, and that's where the intention, it gets injected into your knowingness, and that frequency is just pure. It's instant manifest alone with that. But then, that intention has to be backed by the integrity of the soul. So you have to know what your soul purpose is. So you know what intention to choose to put into that knowingness. Cause otherwise it's careless, and it could be easily dark or harmful. Yeah. So I suggest that you don't put your intention into this kind of magic unless it's coming from a deep place of memory of love of all souls.
Absolutely. Well, as you come into alignment with that deeper part of your being, your intentions do change, because you're not going to wish for the car or the house. I mean, your intentions are supporting life. It's such a deeper, life supporting intention that you always are wanting to be a part of and support in life, it feels.
Yes. We're broadening our love. See, what's happening on the planet right now is we have all of these, think about all the cultures in Africa and the Middle East, and you can just see these cultures where the love stays stationary, and even especially America actually, where love is just focused on my children and my wife and my family, my parents, my children, and my little life. And humanity hasn't learned yet how to assume that the children that we're bombing on the other side of the world are our children. That's our family. This is all family. And so when we can increase our capacity to embrace the capacity to feel our love for every soul that's in part of this project, it's a great service. It's not just service. We're volunteering to do this because it's so fulfilling to feel that love. I feel incomplete without feeling that love for all souls. I don't want my love to stay stationary just for my own children.
Yes, that is exactly right. We've forgotten outside of our front door that we are all interconnected and interrelated, and we love each other at that soul level. Yes. Absolutely. We're just so bombarded with all these other emotional reactions to the life here that we've forgotten that the answer to our prayers is love in its fullest extent, and that means clearing your own baggage so that you can access that love. Because I'll tell you, when I was carrying around a ton of baggage that I was trying to avoid, I could not express an ounce of compassion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard to feel when we're in that dark night of the soul space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there too.
I have too. Ascension portal. This is the ascension portal. Right there. Realizing, going through the Shadowland and making an altar, however we do it, and creating a field of universal love, of retribing, I think you call it, Kelly, of creating it as a daily practice. We're creating a field for that to happen. well, it's already here. We are tapping into it and making it, connecting it between the dimensions, or I don't know what the words are, but I'm just
absolutely
getting, we're all waiting around for this to happen. It's like, this is the making the runway. We opening the door, everything that we want to have happen. And we're the doers. We're not the doers of it really, because God is doing it as us, in us. But yes.
Yes. Hanta yo, we're making the way.
So we have several comments in chat after what we've just been discussing, and this shifting is seeming to initiate a flushing of those darker things within ourselves, those held emotions within ourselves. And I think it would be really great to address a little bit of what one can do when they're in that extreme compression and suffering.
Yes, that's a really good one. The biggest piece for me on this one, because it can get pretty intense when we're deepest, darkest experiences of fear. But if we're not afraid of our own fear, the fear just dissolves. So if we go into and have the self-honesty to not judge why you have the fear and be willing to feel it fully. That's the biggest piece. Just the more we are allowed to allow ourselves to feel it fully and love ourselves through the release of it, while not being afraid of what we're feeling, because feeling is just feeling. It's not even reality. This is kind of an illusion in 3D. It's not even reality. So it's just a feeling. So just know that it's passing. Just have the courage to feel it and let it pass, and know that you're going to feel freer because of it over and over and over again. It's like, that's what continuous emergence is breaking free from these imprints of fear. And it's so worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I think that some people, they feel it, but they have trouble letting it go.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say to that?
Well, then it would depend on why they don't want to let it go. For some people, it might be shame. For some people, it might be guilt. And those are the keys right there. Shame and guilt are kind of like double binds, where it's really hard to let go of those pieces. And I still say that if you drop into yourself, where you're connected with your higher self, you'll see that these are just simple cords that you can just snip like a wire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have a process that I've used for a number of years, and it's acknowledge, accept, release. Mm-hmm. And I find I might have to go through that same process a number of times with the same issue, because there's different layers to it. If it's a very, very deep wound, so I might be able to get through one layer, and then a year later it might resurface again. Not the same part because I've dealt with that, but a deeper part.
Yes.
But the releasing is so important. Yeah.
Yes, you experienced a pause after that. Are you noticing that you're different every time that you do this?
Oh, absolutely.
Expanding.
And like you said, it's so worth it. It is so worth it, because you're free of that piece completely, and in its place is gratitude and love and a more ability to express your true essence.
Yes. And there is something to replace all of these wounds. Once we get this work done, we can live passionately. That's when we can access our creativity and our passions, and that's when we start loving living. It's been a while, but now it's time. It's time that we're going to start like going, what? I don't even want the ascension anymore. I want to stay here forever.
This is the ascension. Oh my goodness. Yeah. It's so exciting. It really is, because this work is so rewarding, and that's why we're doing the show, just to encourage people and to make it safe and comfortable, because it's the only way that we've found ourselves. So we were just really so grateful for you and your work that you're doing, and sharing everything that you have tonight with us.
Thank you so much. I loved being with family. Yeah. And that includes everyone that's attracted to this information that's listening. We're all family.
Yeah. And how do our listeners find you?
My website is liquidmirror, as it's spelled, .org. And my email address is kellylasha@gmail.com.
And you do some one-on-one sessions with people?
Yeah. Yes, on Skype or over the phone.
Okay. Excellent. Anything else, ladies, you would like to say? We've got about 2 minutes left.
I'd like to say, buy the book, Liquid Mirror. It's easy to understand. It's not intellectualized, and there's a lot of neat ideas about ways we can work through these things. So.
Kelly, I would like to talk to you about translating it into Spanish. I am here in Ecuador. No, I'm serious.
Oh.
And I'm working. I've started a community center called Vilcamamas, and working in a healing clinic with a shaman down here. And I really want to implement some of your techniques and practices. I find them so definitive and streamlined and clear. I'm really resonating with this material. So maybe I can speak with you about that later.
Oh, great. Yes. And send me an email or we can talk. I'd love to talk about that.
All right. Beautiful. We'd also like to have you back again. I mean, I had pages of things I wanted to ask you. We've taken a long journey, but I'm feeling so in a resonance. I can feel the collective mind is able to receive this information and transmute. There's something very palpable, very clear, very direct. And so I'm so glad that us three women are holding a field in support of you. I'm also feeling that is helpful. And I want to continue that in the future.
I'd love to. Yes.
So maybe just name the books. And there's a workbook, right? So that people can actually go through step by step the process, the Liquid Mirror book, and there's a Liquid Mirror workbook.
The workbook is designed for people that can't afford to go to workshops and they prefer to do it in the privacy of their own home. But it's a very intensive workshop, and for some pieces you might want to for the heavier pieces, you might want to work with a practitioner to help you go through the dark night of the souls type of work. But otherwise, this workbook takes you through every process that you need to completely debug your soul from the matrix, basically, and to heal the self-loathing aspects that came from the matrix and replacing that with self-love. It is a very thorough workbook. And then Surfing the Transformational Waves takes it.
If you can't stop crying, follow the road on.
Oh, sorry, the music came on. We didn't hear it starting. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you guys so much.
Yes, so much love.
So much love. Love to all.
Ain't good enough for this world. If you done somebody wrong, you can come to. So follow the road if you need forgiveness. Follow the road on down. Follow the road if you need a witness. Follow the road. Nobody's holding you to any rules. We all are broken now. We are fools too. So follow that road. Try and let go. Try and be yourself. Oh, try and be yourself. Follow the road if you don't have money. Follow the road on down. Follow the road if nothing's funny. Follow the road. Nobody knows where this road's gonna go. It's all in the finding out and in the hope. So follow that road.